We were sitting around the dinner table, some students and people, and question came to you both. The way you sound, you guys may not believe in God or something.
I am married to an ex-nun, an ex-Roman Catholic nun. I drive her to 35 years we've been married a few days ago, and I drive her to church on occasion. I'll go in and listen. I'll go to the mosque. I'll go to the Buddhist temple. I go to anybody's religion, because religion is a belief. Nobody has it. Now, you ask if I believe in God, you must first explain, because I met the guy that robbed my house, believed in God. He had a big cross on his chest when they caught him and down at the prison. He believed. That didn't stop him from robbing my house. Believing in God don't make you good or bad. The Ku Klux Klan believe in God. The one thing that they say, that they have established a religion to protect the name of Jesus. And so read the whole philosophy. Most of the people here in the Bible Belt will cut your throat for being black. Did the Bible stop them from being racist? No. That don't mean a thing because you believe. You believe and your behavior are two different things. And people ask, you believe in God, you don't believe in God. So what that means? It doesn't mean I won't cut your throat.
Okay, but you said earlier that if we stop paying black preachers tomorrow morning,
the church will close. How many of them come in to do volunteer work? It's a business. There's a salary people get out of it, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, or what.
Christianity and religion as we know it is a business?
Big business.
Biggest business is bigger than IT&T.
You get all kinds of tax breaks and all kinds of privileges when you're the minister.
His salary is paid. You think the Pope would be there if he didn't get a big salary? He'd get the biggest salary of all. Do you think, no, let's face it. How many ministers you know doing it for free? Just tell me.
Okay, this is black.
If you don't pay your 10% tithing and see how, if you're going to get buried, then leave your cards, and may come to the undertaker parlor and say a few words, but you're not coming to the cemetery.
As only Dr. Ben can, huh?
Hey, and I love this picture because this picture got the look in it. I'm like, bro. Now the interviewer does a good job because he know how to ask the right questions to get it going.
Mm-hmm.
But so before we go back and break down, some of the things that stood out to me that I think we should focus on is talking about what you believe in, what your morals are, and what your actions are based off of your belief and your morals, and do things line up. Because especially for us African people, black people, whatever you want to classify yourself, black people in America, how we view religion and how religion has affected us, and how other people, how they use religion has affected us. Those are things that kind of stand out in my mind. What about you?
The same. You know, I would say the biggest thing I'm thinking about right now is the equally yoked mantra that we have in the black community, and something that he spoke to basically throughout the duration of the clip. This belief that believing in God or believing in a particular religion somehow makes you something.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing I think we should hit on today is you could believe what you want to believe, but at the end of the day, do your actions line up with your belief? And within your belief, using your belief and carrying out your actions, is that leading you to a fruitful, fulfilling, for us, a free life, a life where we are not under the system, a life where we are autonomous, where we are self-actualizing? Because if it's not leading us to that, like we said in the previous video, then we got to rethink it. So, but let's go back through and break this thing down.
We were sitting around the dinner table, some students and people, and question came to you both. The way you sound, you guys may not believe in God or something.
I am married to an ex-nun, an ex-Roman Catholic nun. I drive her to 35 years we've been married a few days ago, and I drive her to church on occasion. I'll go in and listen. I'll go to the mosque. I'll go to the Buddhist temple. I go to anybody's religion, because religion is a belief. No.
Stop it right there. I love Love how he went, hey man, you gonna come at me and tell me I don't believe in God. But I think a lot of the times that comes from from people's mindset of you should believe the way I believe, and you should believe what I believe. And if you don't believe what I believe and the way I believe, then your belief is wrong. Even though my outcomes are no better than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing we have to look at. No matter what you believe, what are the outcomes? Like, let's put it in real and like something that can make sense. Like, let's say I believe I can beat Michael Jordan. Let's say Michael Jordan, 1998 Michael Jordan. Let's say I believe I can beat prime Michael Jordan in a one-on-one basketball game. That's what I believe. But the reality is when I played him, I didn't score. So using that analogy is we can believe what we want to believe, but at the end of the day, how is that belief actually serving us? How are we serving that belief? Is it really helping us? Because in this instance, the belief in God or whoever you view as God, I ain't telling nobody what to view, but the belief in whoever you view as God. But in this, it seemed like well, and in the context of this, was the question that was asked to Dr. Ben that was asking, do you believe in the Christian God? And
Right.
he's explaining to them, bruh, I don't have to. That
Right.
doesn't define me as a person, and it doesn't define how I will treat other people.
Right. And that's one thing I like about it is typically I'm a stickler for answering the question before you go off on tangents. But with this particular question, we know the intent of the
Of the
question. Like,
interviewer, yeah.
yeah, we know what people are getting at when they ask you that, because we've been, you start doing this kind of work where you're looking at Black history and things like that. You get that question all the time.
Bruh, remember in the early 2000s, the question was, there was two questions. Are you a Muslim? And you don't believe in God?
Right. Right.
It's evolved now, but those were the two main questions back
Right.
then.
And so, yeah, and you're right. It has evolved now, but every once in a while, when I bump into somebody that I haven't met before, that have heard me speak or that have heard about me, that's that's a question that'll come up every once in a
Mm-hmm.
while. So you don't believe in God, or you're not a Christian, or whatever the case might be. And like Dr. Ben, I'm married to somebody that considers herself a devout Christian that grew up in the church. I come from a family of devout Christians. Um, Me and my mom are the only two that we say we're outside of that realm. But the getting at it is, what does that mean? Like, why does that question even matter?
Right,
Do you believe in God? Why does that even matter?
right.
What influence does that have on anything?
How am I treating you? How are you treating me? How are you treating yourself? How am I treating myself? How do we treat each other as a collective? Is this belief actually serving us? That should be the question. But not,
Mm-hmm.
well, do you believe in God? Because and not from the interviewer, because the interviewer is just doing their job, but he's relaying what others is asking. But that's a bit of arrogance as well. Is, well, you don't believe in God? What's wrong with you? And it's like, well, hold up, like, oh, my bad, my bad. I didn't know your view was the only view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I get that same thing when I tell people that I intentionally expose myself to other religions. I get the
Yes,
same thing. Like,
yes,
so you're not a Christian? What does me exposing myself to other religions have to
got to
do
do
with
it.
whether or not I'm a Christian?
Right, right. Because in their mind, you should only read the Bible.
So I think that's one of the things that we still, and it's because in America, the Black community is 70% Christian. And there's still a lot of that Christian arrogance, that Christian
Hmm.
ego prevalent, where if you aren't a Christian, you aren't equal to me. And I'm not even saying equal in the sense of good or bad, but equal in the sense of I can't work with you. I can't
Right. I
progress
can't
with
build with
you.
you. I
Right,
can't build with
because
you.
you're not Christian. And so I love the way he answers it, because it's like, okay, well, a lot of the murderers are Christians. A lot of the scam artists are
Christian.
Christians. The thieves, the robbers,
The people you look
the
up to who do
right,
bad.
the people that are doing the worst. A lot of your politicians that you love to hate are Christians.
A lot
But
of your rappers.
because they're Christians, even though they're not doing much to improve your community, you'll
You
work with
exalt them.
them versus me, somebody who you see and is sitting here in front of you willing to do the work.
Hey, look,
You won't fuck with me at all.
the rap, and I know what I'm about to say, and I know people gonna be like, hey man, it's Future, but it shouldn't be like this. In the context of what we talking about, it shouldn't be like this. So the rapper Future came to Tallahassee like last week or something. And he went the same projects that we do a lot of work in and feeding people and stuff. Like, no, he came out and he was exalted. When not just the group that I work with, but when other groups of people go in on a daily basis and help out, there's no exalting. There's no thinking. That people barely show up. The people aren't even grateful. And all these people are Christians. So Christianity has nothing to do with how productive you are as a people. No religion. And I like that how he gets into it, because he didn't want to just stick on Christianity, but no religion, no belief you have is going to determine like how we exist as a people, how we treat each other. Because if we're overlooking the everyday people who pour into us on a regular basis to exalt somebody like Future, yeah, all right, we ain't talking about that.
Yeah, and I mean because he's talking about religion in general. I'm harping on Christianity because 70% of the black community in America is Christian. And one of the things that I've always found interesting, I'm not sure if the stats are still that way, but at one point in time, Louisiana was the most church attending state in the nation, and it also had the highest murder rate in the nation. So again,
Bible Belt. Well, look at the Bible Belt has the greatest disparities in America. The Bible Belt, where black folk really, really believe, and we have the
and white
greatest
folk really,
disparities.
really believe as well.
And black folk and white folk and I live in the Bible Belt, in the Bible all my life, and we have the greatest disparities. So yeah, it has to go beyond belief.
Right. So my whole point with what I was saying was just to accentuate what he's saying and say it in plain language. Stop worrying about people's religious beliefs. That has nothing to do with their commitment to the community.
What's the quality of the person?
Right.
All right, let's keep going.
Nobody has it. Now, you ask if I believe in God, you must first explain, because I met the guy that robbed my house, believed in God. He had a big cross on his chest when they caught him and down at the precinct. He believed. That didn't stop him from robbing my house. Believing in God don't make you good or bad. The Ku Klux Klan believe in God. The one thing that they said that they have established a religion to protect the name of Jesus. So read the whole philosophy. Most of the people here in the Bible Belt will cut your throat for being black. Did the Bible stop them from being racist? No. That don't mean a thing because you believe. You believe and your behavior are two different things. And people ask, you believe in God, you don't believe in God. So what that means? It doesn't mean I won't cut your throat.
Okay, but you said earlier that if we stop paying black preachers tomorrow morning,
the church will close.
Let's hit on that. You got to hit that. I mean, let's not pretend like we don't know this ain't no business, man. Like let's not play with it. Let's not lie to ourselves. Let's not be delusional on purpose to act like these religious institutions aren't set up as businesses. It's business. Religion has always been business, and religion will always be business.
Well, I'll say there was a period in time where you had the traveling pastors that lived off the charity of people.
Yeah, but then you had Constantine.
Right. Those were always few and far in between. And
Then you
today
got the
is no
Pope.
different.
You
Right.
got the Pope. Yeah.
Today is no different. If black people stop playing tithes, because we all know the most abundant building in the black community is the church.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's more churches than gun stores, liquor stores, and pawn shops.
Hey man, come to my neighborhood.
So we do know that if black people stop paying their tithes and stop giving their offerings, a lot of those churches would close shop. Now, I do believe that there are some people that honestly feel like we're called by God and we're anointed, and they would keep working despite the
Yeah.
hardships and perseverance.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be honest, the chances that you're under one of those pastors
That's far and
is
few.
right. It's slim to none. Definitely, if your pastor is ranting about you not getting him a Movado watch.
Man, that was that. Hey, you know what? I wasn't even thinking about that, bro. Like, I forgot about that. That's crazy. That's yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. The you got that pastor who and we talked about that on our Freedom Train Network podcast. So check that out. But that the pastor is degrading the members of the congregation because they refused to buy him a Movado watch from Sam's. And then remember, Creflo Dollar got his $65 million jet that he said God told him to get. And see, that's like the gullibleness of the people as well. Because it's something you and I talked about in private conversations. Most people talk about the responsibility of the leader, but you often talk about the responsibility of the followers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important conversation that need to be had right here is followers have to be responsible for their actions and responsible for explaining why you're following this person, this particular
Mm-hmm.
person, and why you're continuing to do these actions when the overall outcome that you were seeking to get, you so far away from the outcome, it's not even ridiculous.
Yeah, because like you said, we talked about it. My belief is followers have more responsibilities than the leaders do, because essentially all of the power and influence is another thing we're gonna get on, but I want to finish this first. But all of the power and influence that a leader has is derived from his followers. Every single follower takes their bit of power and transfers it to the leader, who then uses that aggregate power and influence to accomplish things. So that means that if you're going to be transferring your power to somebody to use in your stead, you have a responsibility to make sure that they're using the power that you have given them in a way that you deem responsible and
Right.
necessary and
Right.
ethical. So
Well,
go ahead.
I just across the board, we do a horrible job as black people. We do a horrible job of holding anybody accountable.
Right. Right. But that's because we don't really participate in the power relationship, the dynamics of it. We think that leaders are leaders that have all of this power and
Mm-hmm.
influence, and we just try to ride that wave, not
Right.
realizing that the wave is composed of a bunch of water molecules, individual water molecules.
It's a team.
That's what we are. We are those molecules that they're riding.
They're nothing. The preacher is nothing without his congregation.
Right. Right. So you
A,
know what? When you stop giving energy to an atom, or when you stop giving energy to an atom, it stops moving.
a leader, no matter the realm, a leader is nothing without his people, nothing without his followers. But there is I think people do have to realize too, there is a monetizing has its purpose, has its place.
Mm-hmm.
But how is the money being used?
Because
That's the
right,
question.
right. Because you need resources, right?
Yeah.
And especially you need financial resources to substitute for intellectual resources that you don't have.
Well,
Everybody, go ahead.
no, finish up. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say everybody isn't like every group isn't gonna have the intellectual capability, the time capabilities, or the technological capabilities to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished. That's where financial resources comes in.
Right, right. The idea of the poor righteous teacher didn't work.
Right.
It didn't work. That's why like we said, the conditions of the communities never changed. Like we can look at we can look at the 90s where we had this wave of consciousness that come through black communities all throughout America, and people were speaking good and people were talking the talk and all these things, but the actual outcomes was that the conditions of the people in the community were degrading. That's the actual outcomes. No matter, even in this latest wave of consciousness that just happened in the 2010s, late 2010s, 2020s, that all the black people, like we come from kings and queens, like everybody was kings and queens in Africa or whatever. But it's like this wave of consciousness is coming around and people are talking good, when in actuality we're not doing good.
Because it's a false consciousness.
Right.
You know,
But
and go ahead.
But the monetization has its place. The church should be able to gather the money and use the money to sustain itself and be able to grow itself. But it shouldn't be just one person who's benefiting off of this, or everybody else is just continuously feeding the pig, feeding the pig, feeding the pig, and you only see one person who is rising. Y'all need to stop doing that.
Well, I mean, the Bible itself has a verse about throwing your pearls to swines. But I mean, one of the things that, because here's the other end of it, the church should not be the fastest growing establishment in a community that's thriving off of the religious growth provided by that church. The church should be bringing up the rear. Everything else should be coming up because of those resources coming through the church first. So yeah, we put a building fund on the church to build up the church after all of the people in the community are no longer impoverished, homeless, without food, without educational
Yes.
resources or access
Yes.
to opportunities.
Yes.
Once all of those problems are solved, now we can put money into the. But the other thing I wanted to harp on real quick was just the influence aspect, because that's one thing I think we got to understand, that there are two types of people out there when it comes to corruption. Some that are corrupted by money, some that are corrupted by influence or power, and they aren't always the same. There are people out there, like I think back to the pastor and the African pastor, I believe it was in South Africa a few years back, that had gotten his congregation to eat grass because
Yeah.
God had told
Yeah.
them, God told him to tell them to eat grass, and everybody got sick. And then I
Yeah.
think about another pastor who had all of the women in his congregation sucking his meat because he had holy semen. So
Right.
he said,
Right.
like, these are people, the money, even if the money stopped coming,
To
because
influence.
the power and the influence, they would still do it. So now you got to not only look at your pastor and evaluate whether they're making moves